He was the CEO everyone feared, a man who ruled his empire with silence and intimidation. No one dared to look him in the eye. No one dared to challenge his power. But everything changed the moment a new secretary walked through those doors, because with one unexpected accident, she shattered the fear that held the company hostage and set off a chain of events no one could have predicted. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. On Monday morning, the city skyline was wrapped in fog as Nora Taylor hurried across the crowded lobby of Harper & Sons Enterprises. It was her first day as a secretary, and already she was late. Her shoes tapped against the polished marble floor, echoing louder than she wanted. In her hands, she carried a small tray with 2 steaming cups of coffee, one for herself and one as a hopeful gesture for her new boss. That new boss was Damian Harper, the chief executive officer of the company. His name carried weight in the building. People spoke it with both fear and respect. Stories traveled like whispers through the halls. Damian was ruthless, cold, a man who never tolerated mistakes. It was said that he fired one employee for misplacing a single file. Others claimed he had never been seen smiling. To many, he was less of a leader and more of a storm waiting to break. Nora, however, had only heard the rumors. She had never met him. In her head, she promised herself she would be different, that she would make a good impression. As she weaved through the crowd, she whispered, excuse me, trying not to bump into anyone. Then it happened. Her left shoe slipped on the shiny floor, and in that single second, the tray tilted forward. Both cups of coffee lifted in the air like clumsy dancers. Time seemed to slow as the brown liquid spun above her head. And standing right in front of her, tall and serious in a perfectly tailored suit, was Damian Harper himself. The 2 coffees landed directly on his chest and tie, splashing across fabric that looked like it belonged in an expensive boutique in Italy. Gasps rose from the lobby. Every conversation stopped. Even the security guard at the door looked up from his phone. Nora froze. Her eyes widened, moving from the spreading stain on his suit to the sharp lines of his face. Damian lowered his gaze to his chest, then slowly lifted his eyes back to hers. The silence that followed was heavier than stone. In her panic, Nora did something unexpected. Instead of begging for forgiveness, she blurted out, "Well, at least it matches your suit, and it's premium roast, so technically, you smell richer now." A ripple of shock went through the onlookers. Some employees pressed their lips together to hide laughter. Most just stared, waiting for the explosion. Damian frowned. His jaw tightened, and his voice came out low, steady and firm. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" Nora swallowed hard. "I spilled coffee on your suit, yes, but technically, I improved it. People pay a lot for designer scents. Now you have one of a kind." She gave a nervous smile, though her heart pounded in her chest. Damian blinked slowly, as if trying to decide whether this young woman was bold or completely out of her mind. His voice cut the silence. "This suit cost more than your annual salary." Nora bit her lip. "Look on the bright side. Now you smell inviting." A little coffee never hurt anyone. Whispers spread through the lobby. Someone muttered, "She's done for." Damian took a step closer, and Nora realized how tall he was, how his presence filled the room. The scent of expensive cologne now mixed with the coffee, sharp and overwhelming. "Your name," he demanded. Nora Taylor. I'm your new secretary." His eyes narrowed. Curiosity flickered briefly in his expression. "Perfect. Your first day, and you've already made it to the top of my list." Nora tried to explain, waving her hand in desperation. "I just wanted to make a good impression, so I thought coffee would help." Except the floor had other plans. Damien breathed deeply, clearly fighting to keep control. "Go to my office in 10 minutes. Bring a cloth." "Right, boss." Her voice was small, but she stood her ground. As he walked away, murmurs filled the lobby. Two interns whispered to each other, "She's brave or crazy." The receptionist, smiling mischievously, said, 10 minutes in, and she's already made history. Nora sighed, her face flushed. "Welcome to the dream job, Taylor." When the elevator carried her to the 27th floor, the ride felt endless. Her mind replayed the moment again and again. Humiliation, disaster, or maybe even immediate firing. She imagined the stories people would tell, the girl who ruined the CEO's suit on her first day. Outside Damien's office, the hallway was silent. The door stood open, and he was there, his back to her, looking out over the city. "Come in," he said without turning around. Nora stepped inside, clutching the cloth like a shield. "I'm sorry about the coffee. It was an accident. I really wanted to make a good impression." He turned slowly. The stain was still on his suit, but his eyes were colder than steel. "An impression, Miss Taylor, is made with work, not with spilled coffee." Nora nodded quickly. "So, no donuts tomorrow?" For the briefest moment, Damien's mouth twitched as if resisting a smile. Then it was gone. He placed a thick folder on the desk. "Work for today. Let's see if you are better at typing than serving coffee." Nora took the folder, forcing a calm expression. "I'm great at both, sir, as long as the floor isn't plotting against me." This time she caught it clearly. The corner of his mouth tilted before he hit it again. As she left the office, Nora knew one thing. She hadn't just met her boss. She had stepped into a battle. The morning after the coffee accident, Nora Taylor walked into Harper & Sons Enterprises with her head held high. Whispers followed her through the hallways. Employees still remembered the fearless joke she made to Damien Harper, the CEO no one dared to cross. Some admired her bravery. Others predicted her career would be over before the week ended. Nora, however, chose not to care. She had survived day one. Now she had to survive day two. Damien sat at his desk when she entered his office. His expression was calm but unreadable, like a mask carved from stone. Without looking up, he slid a thick stack of papers across the polished wood. "I want these sorted, labeled, and filed before lunch," he said. Nora glanced at the mountain of documents. There had to be hundreds of pages, maybe more. "Before lunch?" she repeated. His eyes lifted to hers. "Is that a problem?" She smiled faintly. "No problem at all. But if you don't see me at lunch, it's because I'm buried under this paperwork." His brow twitched, almost as if he was hiding amusement. "Then you'd better start digging." By noon, Nora delivered every file, perfectly organized, neatly stacked, and even color-coded. The assistants outside Damien's office watched in shock. One whispered, "How did she do that?" Another said, "She must have superpowers." When Damien inspected the work, his lips pressed into a firm line. "Acceptable," he muttered, though his eyes betrayed surprise. The next day, he set her another impossible task. "Book me a flight to London tonight and arrange a meeting with the board first thing in the morning. I also want a presentation prepared by then." Nora didn't flinch. "Would you like me to stop time too, or is that next week's request?" The employees listening outside nearly gasped. No one ever spoke to Damien like that. Yet he didn't fire her. Instead, he narrowed his eyes. Just get it done. By dawn, Damien found the presentation waiting on his desk. The flights were booked, the hotel arranged, the meeting scheduled, and every slide in the report prepared with precision. Nora greeted him with a tired smile. "Your carriage awaits, sir." Damien studied her carefully, as though she were a puzzle he couldn't solve. He had spent years intimidating people, bending them to his will. Yet this secretary refused to bend. Days turned into weeks, and their silent war continued. Damien assigned her endless challenges, securing last-minute reservations at exclusive restaurants, finding rare documents in dusty archives, or coordinating back-to-back meetings with impossible deadlines. Each time, Nora delivered. Sometimes she succeeded with creative solutions, sometimes with stubborn determination, but she never gave up. In the office, her reputation grew. Employees who once lived in constant fear of Damien began to find courage in Nora's example. She brought small changes, sharing snacks during long hours, helping colleagues finish reports, even offering encouraging words when morale was low. Her presence softened the tense atmosphere. Where once silence dominated the office, now quiet laughter sometimes echoed in the hallways. People began whispering not only about Damien's anger, but also about Nora's cleverness and her refusal to be broken. Damien noticed. Every detail slipped past his sharp eyes. He saw the way his staff's posture relaxed when Nora walked in. He saw how productivity rose, not from fear, but from motivation. This shift unsettled him. For years, fear had been his weapon. Yet here was this young secretary dismantling it piece by piece without even trying. Their exchanges became almost like a game. When Damien gave an order, Nora would reply with a witty remark. When he tried to test her patience, she would respond with calm humor. One afternoon, he told her, "Deliver this report to me in 30 minutes, or don't bother coming back." She raised an eyebrow. "Would you like me to sprint or just borrow a cape and fly there?" He looked at her, expression blank, but his hand paused slightly on the pen he was holding. She left and returned 29 minutes later with the finished report. She placed it neatly on his desk and said, "With 1 minute to spare. Cape not required." Damien leaned back in his chair. His voice was steady, but there was something new in his tone, something curious. "You're not like the others." Nora tilted her head. "Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment." The war of wills continued, but the battle lines were shifting. Damien was no longer simply testing her. He was watching her, studying her, almost as though he was waiting to see just how far her courage could go. And for Nora, each challenge only proved one thing. She was not afraid of Damien Harper. She would face every task, every test, and every obstacle, not only to survive, but to show that even the most feared leader could be matched by determination and wit. Little by little, the office began to believe it too. Whispers no longer spoke only of Damien's temper. Now, they carried a new name, Nora Taylor, the secretary who dared to challenge the CEO. Weeks passed at Harper and Sons Enterprises, and the silent battle between Damien Harper and Nora Taylor continued. He tested her with endless challenges, and she countered with clever solutions. But beneath the constant back and forth, something else was building. Damien began noticing things he had once ignored. The way employees smiled more when Nora was around. The way the office felt lighter. One late evening, when most workers had already gone home, Nora stayed behind to finish a stack of reports. While searching for an important file, she accidentally knocked over a drawer that hadn't been opened in years. Papers spilled across the floor, yellowed with age. Among them, she found a folder stamped confidential. Curiosity tugged at her. She opened it and froze. Inside were documents showing how employee benefits had been cut year after year. Health coverage reduced, bonuses eliminated, retirement plans stripped away. All of this had been signed off by Damien himself. Her heart sank. The stories she had heard about his ruthless reputation suddenly felt very real. People in the office had been struggling for years, whispering about unfair policies. And here was the proof. The next morning, Nora walked into Damien's office with the folder in hand. He was seated at his desk, scanning emails. She dropped the papers in front of him. Care to explain this? His eyes flicked to the documents, then back to her face. Where did you find these? Doesn't matter where. What matters is what they say. You've been cutting benefits from the very people who keep this company alive. No wonder everyone here walks on eggshells. Her voice was steady, though her hands trembled. Damien leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. This is business, Miss Taylor. Sacrifices are necessary to keep the company profitable. Nora shook her head. No, this isn't sacrifice. This is exploitation. These people give you their time, their energy, their lives. You've taken away their security and called it profit. That's not leadership. That's fear. For a long moment, silence filled the office. Damien's jaw tightened, but his eyes revealed something more, a flicker of vulnerability, quickly hidden. You don't understand, he said quietly. I was raised in a world where weakness was never an option. My father built this company by demanding results, no matter the cost. I was taught to value success above everything else. Nora's voice softened, but her words stayed firm. Then maybe your father taught you wrong. Strength isn't about crushing people. It's about lifting them up. You've built an empire of fear, Damien, but fear doesn't last. One day, it will turn against you. He didn't reply. Instead, he closed the folder and stared at the city skyline through the tall glass window. Before either could say more, the door burst open. His senior executive, Robert Cade, rushed inside, holding a phone to his ear. His face was pale. We have a problem, he said. Someone leaked financial data to the press. They're accusing us of fraud. Damien's head snapped around. What kind of fraud? Embezzlement, false accounts. The story's already spreading. Investors are demanding answers. Nora felt the tension thicken in the room. Damien's empire, already fragile, was now at risk of crumbling. Robert glanced at Nora with suspicion, then turned back to Damien. We need to find the source before this destroys us. As Robert left, Damien remained still. Nora studied him closely. Beneath the cold exterior, she saw the weight pressing on his shoulders. Finally, he turned to her. You're clever, Miss Taylor. And you don't scare easily. I need your help. Nora blinked. My help? I'm just a secretary. No, he said firmly. You're the only one in this building who looks me in the eye and tells me the truth. That's exactly what I need right now. Hesitation crossed her face, but then she nodded. Fine, but we do this my way. Honesty first, no gains. Damien agreed, though the words seemed foreign on his tongue. Together, they began digging through records, searching for the leak. Late nights turned into early mornings as they traced transactions and followed paper trails. It didn't take long to uncover a disturbing pattern. Hidden beneath layers of numbers was evidence of money quietly being shifted. All signs pointed to one man, Robert Kane. Nora laid the final report on the desk. It's him. Your most trusted executive has been stealing from you and feeding lies to the press. Damien's expression darkened, but there was no anger directed at her. Instead, there was respect. You found what no one else could. I should have seen it sooner. Nora crossed her arms. You were too busy ruling with fear to notice who was betraying you. The words stung, but Damien didn't argue. For the first time, he admitted, you're right. In that moment, a war between them shifted into something else. Not victory or defeat, but a fragile partnership. Nora had uncovered the truth, and now she stood at his side. Together they would face the storm that was coming. The scandal at Harper & Sons Enterprises reached its peak within days. Headlines spread across business journals and news outlets, accusing the company of fraud and deception. Investors demanded answers, employees feared for their jobs, and the reputation of the empire Damien Harper had built stood on the edge of collapse. But behind closed doors, Damien and Nora Taylor were working tirelessly. After uncovering Robert Kane's betrayal, they built a plan to expose him. Damien, once known for hiding everything behind walls of power, now relied on Nora's honesty and courage. It was a partnership no one could have predicted, yet it was the only way forward. The night of the company's annual gala arrived. The ballroom shimmered with chandeliers, and the air buzzed with tension. Investors, board members, and employees filled the space, waiting for Damien's speech. Robert Kane stood among them, confident, wearing a smug smile, as though victory was already his. When Damien stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. For years, people had feared his presence. Tonight, they waited to see if he would defend himself or crumble under pressure. His voice rang clear. Harper & Sons has been accused of fraud. Many of you came here tonight expecting excuses or denials, but that is not what you will hear. A murmur swept the room. Damien continued, his tone steady. The truth is this company has been betrayed, and tonight we reveal who is responsible. On cue, Nora stepped forward, carrying files and documents she and Damien had prepared. She handed them to the board, each page exposing Robert Kane's secret transactions and deceit. Gasps filled the hall. Whispers turned into shouts. Robert's face drained of color. He stammered, "This is a lie," but security was already moving toward him. Damien's words cut through the chaos. "You stole from the people who trusted you. You lied to the employees who built this company. Tonight, your deceit ends." With cameras flashing and witnesses present, Robert was escorted out of the ballroom. The scandal that had threatened to destroy the company shifted in an instant. Now, instead of blaming Damien, the world saw him as the leader who exposed the truth. In the days that followed, something remarkable happened. Instead of clinging to his old methods of fear and control, Damien began to change. For the first time, he listened to his employees. He restored the benefits they had lost, introduced wellness programs, and encouraged open communication. The office that had once been filled with silence and tension slowly transformed into a place of trust and productivity. Employees began to smile openly. Laughter returned to the halls. The fear that had once defined Harper & Sons was replaced by respect. The credit for this change did not go unnoticed. Whispers carried Nora's name throughout the company. She had become the symbol of courage, the one who dared to stand against the CEO, and in doing so, transformed him. One afternoon, Damien called Nora into his office. She expected another stack of files or an impossible task. Instead, he gestured toward the chair across from his desk. "Sit," he said, softer than usual. She raised an eyebrow, but obeyed. "What's this about?" Damien looked at her for a long moment, as though choosing his words carefully. "When you spilled coffee on me that first day, I thought you would be gone within minutes. But instead, you've become the reason this company still stands. You've changed not only the people around me, but me as well." Nora tried to lighten the mood. "So, you're saying the coffee accident was a blessing?" To her surprise, Damien actually smiled. "Yes, a blessing I never expected." He leaned forward. "I don't just want you as my secretary. I want you by my side. In this company and in life, you've shown me what it means to be more than a CEO. You've shown me what it means to be human." For a moment, Nora was silent. Then her lips curved into a small, genuine smile. "You're lucky I didn't bring tea that day. Otherwise, this story would have ended differently." He chuckled quietly, a sound so rare it almost startled her. "So what do you say?" Nora met his gaze. "I say yes, not just because of you, but because of the future we can build together. A future based on honesty, respect, and maybe even a little laughter." From that day forward, the feared CEO was no longer a man defined by intimidation. He became a leader who inspired his people, and at his side was the woman who dared to challenge him, the secretary who had once spilled coffee on his suit, and in doing so, rewrote the story of an entire company. The accident that began with a stain had ended with a transformation, and for Damien and Nora, it was not the end at all, but the beginning of something entirely new.